Well, apparently, everyone who suspects or reports that Alexander Povetkin has taken meldonium this year and that he did fail the drug tests and, he did test positive for meldonium, all of us apparently are just editorializing. We're saying things without actually doing the research and reporting the facts of this whole situation. But isn't it kind of funny that these same people who are accusing us of this are going by the word of none other than Alexander Povetkin's promoter, Ryanbinsky, who seems to be the only one coming out saying that Povetkin passed this test. The WBC hasn't said that Povetkin passed this test. VADA hasn't said that Alexander Povetkin has passed this test. WADA hasn't said that Alexander Povetkin has passed this test. But we're just supposed to go by the word of Alexander Povetkin's promoter, Ryanbinsky. He's supposed to come out with some bombshell to prove us all wrong. And he's going to sue all of us for slandering him. Well, this seems kind of weird that we're supposed to take the word of the fighter who tested positive for the drug. We're supposed to take the word of his promoter. That really isn't a conflict of interest, isn't it? That makes all the sense in the world that he would come out and defend his fighter. Doesn't it? Are we really supposed to hear anything negative out of his mouth about his fighter? So the same people who are criticizing us as being stupid and naive and not knowing anything about this drug, so all of a sudden we're just supposed to take the word of Ryanbinsky here. Makes sense, doesn't it? So if we're supposed to do that, then why not hear the other side? Let's listen to what Deontay Wilder's promoter had to say about this whole situation. Lou DiBella. Let's see what he had to say.
Povetkin passed drug tests on April 7th, April 8th, and April 11th.
Wow.
And then he failed on April 27th. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that it's somewhat unlikely that was a residual use from months earlier.
And also, there's a lot of people out there questioning whether or not meldonium is really a PED or not, and how potent it is. And I'm sure there's going to be some people in the science world that don't really know a lot about this drug, because apparently not a ton of research has been done on this drug to determine how much of a performance enhancer it is. But there are people out there who are saying it's a performance enhancer, and Lou DiBella has echoed those sentiments. So even if there is a chance that it is, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but even if there is a chance that there is, why should a fighter who doesn't take it fight someone who does take it? Because what about the fear of the unknown? What if it does help that athlete? So again, here's the other side of that argument from Lou DiBella. Because you guys want to take Ryanbinsky's word with such certainty, so let's listen to what Lou DiBella said about meldonium.
People are assuming because this drug was banned recently, it's not something so bad. I mean, the experts say that this is an extremely effective performance-enhancing drug, which is one of the reasons why it's been the performance-enhancing drug of choice in Russia and parts of the former Soviet Union.
And finally, for everyone talking about the whole legal amount of meldonium and that Povetkin only had 70 nanograms, according, once again, to Ryanbinsky, Povetkin's promoter. Here's what Lou DiBella had to say about that. Totally different story.
Not to mention, and if people are all hung up on this level or that level, there's an awful lot of chemical technology that allows people to lower levels and make levels appear, low while the drug is still having its impact. I mean, there's, the amount of drug that's in his system is still failed, the standards for WADA and for VADA. So, that says it all.
So at the end of the day, You can choose to, you know, pick one side or the other on who you believe. But another course of action you can take is basically look at some of the information that's been presented to you. The whole 70 nanogram argument has only been put out there by one source, and that's Alexander Povetkin's promoter, Ryanbinsky, who definitely has a conflict of interest in being objective here, obviously. And you have to look at the only source saying that Alexander Povetkin took this drug in 2015 is Alexander Povetkin's promoter, Ryanbinsky. So, obviously, the other side can refute that argument, and I've just shown you how it was done. But you could take a third side here. You could just look at the evidence here, and you could just say to yourself, there's only one side that came out and mentioned the 70 nanograms. It was never mentioned by anyone else. It wasn't mentioned by VADA. It wasn't mentioned by WADA that Alexander Povetkin only had 70 nanograms. So we don't even really know how much was in his system on that April 27th test. We don't know for a fact. The only thing we can go on is Ryanbinsky. And also, you know, we don't know with 100% certainty that he did take the drug in 2016, but it's kind of hard, it's extremely hard for that matter, to overlook those 3 negative tests in April and then all of a sudden out of nowhere a positive test. It's just hard to disregard those tests, as I've said a million times. And that's going to be, I think, a big factor in this whole situation at the end of the day. So you've heard Ryanbinsky's side. Now I've just showed you Lou DiBella's side. And now I'm giving you my side. I'm leaning towards that he did take this drug in 2016. I've talked to others in the industry who agree with me. And it is what it is, man. This ain't about black and white. It ain't about U.S. versus Russia. It's just about being objective and looking at what you have in front of you. And looking at where the source information is coming from, and deciding who you want to believe and who you don't want to believe. Because you can say what you want, but Lou DiBella was going to make a lot of money on this fight. Deontay Wilder was going to make a lot of money on this fight. Deontay Wilder went through a whole full training camp. Deontay Wilder traveled to Europe to train for this fight, to get acclimated to the time zone. So all of a sudden, literally a week before the fight, he doesn't want to fight Alexander Povetkin. They just came up with this cockamamie scheme of him being positive. It was their fault that Alexander Povetkin had this substance in his system. So it just doesn't make sense. There was too much money to be made on this whole deal for Lou and Deontay Wilder to not want this fight. So that makes no sense to me. People claiming that Lou DiBella and Deontay Wilder didn't want this fight, and they're trying to duck Alexander Povetkin, and they're using this for an excuse to duck Alexander Povetkin. Makes no sense to me. I just don't see it that way. Well, it is what it is. You guys decide. That's all I got for now. Until next time, peace. Talk to y'all soon. And as always, thank you for watching.